He's chased down celebrities in a jungle, drunk his own wee, climbed Everest, sold 20 million books, and now he's retelling the biggest bestseller of all. His latest book, The Greatest Story Ever Told, is out next Thursday. So please welcome a man turning the Bible into a bearable. Good skills, Bear Grylls!
All right! Nice intro, Vassos. What are you guys? How are you, Bear?
That's so sweet. I love coming in to see you guys. You're always so encouraging, and I think nobody feels very brave or confident first thing in the morning, and you help us all to stand a little stronger. So, well done, Virgin. Well done, Chris. You guys, you're the best.
Well, there's the gravy train, and we have the bravy train here, I suppose. You came in early today, didn't you? Just to soak up the atmosphere.
Well, the thing is also, I've done so many interviews over the years in the morning where you turn up, because you're still a bit sleepy.
Yes.
You sort of, I think afterwards, God, I was half asleep. And then you're sort of adrenalised because you've done it so badly, but it's too late. And I've learned over the years, get up earlier, cycle. So I cycle half an hour in, which is nice. And then have a coffee, see a few friends, talk a little bit, and you're ready.
Get it going, So here it is, the greatest story ever told. This is what Bear says about this project. About the book, Bear has said, I'd give up every Everest summit, every Emmy, every book and TV show I've ever done to have written this book. It's the proudest thing that I've achieved. And a guy in America, pastor, super qualified, super pastor in America, said, this book will change millions of lives. It's like John Grisham was tasked with writing the Jesus story. Bada, bada, bing. Mic drop. Thank you, Bear Grylls. That's all we've got time for. That's all you need, isn't it? I mean, come on.
You're so sweet. Yeah, it's true. I really feel that. I think all the other things are have been a privilege and great to do, but it's kind of stuff, and it's my work, and it's and I love it. I'm not kind of discounting stuff. I'm really proud of many things, but I don't know. This has come out from the heart, and it's like I'm already seeing and hearing stories of thousands of people of all different faiths from all around the world sending us messages going, they had no idea of this story, and it has changed my life. And it's that's a beautiful thing, because it's something bigger than just what we all do in our work.
What do they mean by they had no idea about the story?
Well, I think it's because, so this is sort of retelling the story of Christ in a sort of new way. And I think, it's called The Greatest Story Ever Told because, we tend to know stories. Like we know, you might go to a wedding or funeral and you know the story of the Good Samaritan, or you know stories about the life of Christ.
Yes.
But most people don't realise quite how kind of radical and sort of brave and broken and difficult and, his actual journey. And so I've tried to kind of strip away all the sanitised Christmas version, sort of Western, sort of white, nice Jesus, and actually say this is actually what happened. And it's kind of shocking at times, but I know it's why I feel it in here. It's like this is the proudest thing I've done because of the effect it has on people, and I love that.
Well, it's funny. It was a perfect answer to the question that I asked, because I thought I knew, but I didn't know. And, I didn't know that the wise men were 2 years after the fact, for example. So straight away, I'm like, this is interesting. I love the New Testament, so I should know, because I read the New Testament a lot. I've got a copy of the New Testament. I take it with me. It's a little green leather book that our local vicar Dave, who's now a bishop, gave to me. And I love it. And I love the testaments, or the testimony rather, of Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. And this is not a dissimilar format. But of course, you piece that together, whereas you've written this in a Dan Brown-esque kind of way. It is a real thriller. As I say, we know what happened. We know what happened with JFK. It doesn't mean we didn't want to go and watch Oliver Stone's production of it. How did you choose which people's perspective to write this from? Because it is very similar to those 4 books in the New Testament, isn't it?
But I wanted to keep it really tight, short, really easy to read, short chapters, cliffhangers every 3 pages, keep it short and punchy. And I don't know, I took it from 5 different perspectives. Yeah. Because, so we start with Mary, we go to Thomas, who was more sceptical, and the fishermen like Peter and John, and finish with Mary Magdalene, whose life was sort of so broken in her early years and turned around by that encounter she had with Yeshua, as I call him in the Bible, his old Aramaic name, his original name of this poor, Galilean stonemason from nowhere, from a backwater. But I think it works telling it from these different perspectives, because then it's all of our stories. It's all of our stories are wrapped up in this one story, whether we are the skeptic, whether we are the broken, whether we are the unsure, whether we are the kind of impulsive, And I know it starts off very innocent with Mary, this young lady who's kind of pregnant out of wedlock, away from her hometown, then had to flee leave their home country and go to Egypt for all those years and everything she kind of went through, and her confidence slowly grows, and then it goes to Thomas, who's kind of like very unsure of what he's seeing, and it's going to take more than some fancy trick at a wedding to convince me.
That's the water into wine.
That's the water to wine. To by the end where he's like, it's his love that changed me, not the miracles.
Yeah, and he sort of gets bored of the magic, doesn't he? Because there are miracles.
Because it's happening all around them all the time.
Yeah.
And the other thing to think is these band of unlikely, ill-educated brothers and sisters he surrounds himself with, that small group. We kind of get the idea of like Peter, and he's like big bearded, like strong, like Moses,
Yeah.
But actually the average age of the disciples was between 15 and 25.
Yeah, of course.
Which is kind of crazy. I mean, maybe late 20s, a couple of them, but young and sort of unsure, and at every turn, sort of like, what are you doing? And he's turning their expectations repeatedly on their head. But it's beautiful, and it's like, it's rooted in love, it's rooted in freedom and forgiveness and healing. And there's no religion in it at all. That's what's kind of like, we have such a habit, don't we, of boxing everything into like, and now the hymn shall begin,
Which is not helpful.
Which is not helpful. And listen, there's a great place for church. I know many wonderful churches, and I'm not so down on church, but I just know this person of Jesus that I've learnt about through this process is wilder, freer, more beautiful, less judging and stronger, and than any other sort of story of any person in history. It's like, and that's why it's relevant today. It's why it's changing lives, and it's why I can stand with confidence and say I'd give up everything else to have done this.
That's incredible. When did you start writing it? How long did it take? How many drafts were there? We're down to 274 pages in the end. Just give us a bit of that.
Yes, good question. Actually, I was filming in the jungle, and I was with my son Jesse, and we were staying at this little lodge. I was working every day, and then I'd come back at the night. We'd eat, we'd swim in the sea, and then I'd write. And Jesse would come through. We're sharing a little room, and he'd come through, say goodnight, 11 o'clock, and I'd be writing, on the floor with the computer on a little cushion. And he'd go, "You should sleep, Papa. You should go to sleep." And I go, "I know." And then he'd often come through at like 3 a.m. He'll go for a pee. He'd go, "Can't believe you're still writing. Are you on?" He kept going, "Are you on drugs or something? What is going on?"
Yeah,
it's like, but when it comes, and it was like I wrote solidly for like 6 weeks. And then the hard process was, and we worked with some of the top theologians in the world, because it's like, you cannot screw this up. Yeah. You can't be inaccurate. You've got to be absolutely on it. And one of the real heroes, this book is many people's books as well, apart from me. And probably the key theologian for me was a guy called Dr. Andrew Ollerton, an amazing man. And he literally, on the shoulders of giants, he is one of the giants, getting all these details right. We worked with, do you know The Chosen? The TV show The Chosen, one of the biggest TV shows in history now, huge in the States. And we worked with a whole bunch of their theologians as well to craft this. So
what is The Chosen?
It's a team effort. The Chosen is now the biggest, I think it's accurate to say it's now the biggest TV show in history. I think it's outdone Sex and the City and Friends.
Is it a drama then?
It's a series. They're on season 5 now. And it's the story of Jesus told.
Why haven't we heard of this?
It's actually amazing. And I did a series of Running Wild bespoke just for them last year that hasn't come out yet, called Chosen in the Wild, where I take their lead actors away. And they have this sort of huge sort of global audience and following of people who love that. So it was kind of great to partner with them and especially with the book and get their kind of like tick in the box as well. Because, as you say, it's like I want to be able to stand up in a hospital, in a prison, in a mosque, in a synagogue, wherever, and read bits of this, and it is beautiful and loving and affirming and relevant to everybody, and that takes work to craft and get it right. But I haven't deviated one bit. The one thing I didn't do, I didn't change a single word from the New Testament that Jesus spoke. So we dramatized the things around accurately, but the words I didn't change. Sometimes it was like, it's just one thing I felt in my heart. I didn't even change a comma. You know, I lifted those bits straight out from different translations.
Well, they've stood the test of time pretty well.
Exactly.
You don't want to be messing with those.
Improve on perfect.
Yeah, it's like changing "she loves you" into "she likes you." No, we're not going to do that. Lennon McCartney had it down.
That's right.
But things like, you know, was he actually 30? You know, what was he doing when he was 26, 28? What happened between him being 6 and 7 and 8 years old, and then it all went quiet till his mid-20s, and then he thought, oh, maybe I'm not the one, and all that's in there. You know, and then him going out to the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, then the whole Passover window, and then him going to have an audience with Elijah and Moses, which I didn't know about any of that stuff.
I know, and it's actually, you know, at the end of the day, I'm only telling a handful of the stories.
Tell us about Elijah and Moses, and what, you know, how long was it since they were last around, and why did he go and see them? And
let me tell you about the first bit, the desert bit first, because I actually went to that desert a couple of years ago.
Right.
I was there in Israel a week before October the 7th, 2 years ago. And we filmed a series following this journey. And, you know, that is a tough desert. You know, I was there in the actual desert bit for like a day and a half.
what's the difference between a tough desert and a not so tough desert?
Well, you know, how barren it is, how hot it is,
Right.
how good the access out and in that. I mean, that was a really tough one. After a day and a half with resources and supplies, I was like, done.
Right.
You know, so to go for 40 days, I think we get this kind of sanitized. This is what I mean by the sanitized version of Jesus, is like he was just sort of meek and mild with the long dress.
Yeah.
You know, he comes out of that desert, as you say, at the start of his ministry, like on fire, like hardened of steel. And I don't know, it's like, it's interesting you say about to the age of 30, because the key bit in the book is when this wedding at Cana that we talked about, and it's like it takes a mother to nudge him towards, and it almost feels like he knows once he starts doing miracles, the journey begins. The clock is ticking.
Yeah.
He's on that 3 years, and he knows where it's ending because he said it from the beginning. And it's like he almost wants to delay that, because 30 is quite old.
Yeah.
But it's like his mother's nudging towards it, and when the wine runs out at this wedding, and she knows a solution. Just get my son. Just sort it out. And he's having fun with his friends, and she says, "Just, you're sure? Sort it out.
It's time."
And he goes, "No, Mama, he's kind of saying like, I'm having fun. Leave me. It's not my time yet." You can almost imagine him saying it a lot. It's not yet my time. And she doesn't even respond to that. She just looks at the servants and says, "Do whatever he says." And that, for me, is like a beautiful way to live our lives. It's like, do whatever he says. And it's like, that covers so much in life. His interactions with people, never judges, always loving, always the extra mile, always turning the tables upside down. And of course, then he does it, and he turns 600 gallons of well water into wine, and then the journey begins.
Yeah, and then every time he's challenged by the Pharisee, and they ask him a question, which is a closed question, which means he's gonna be guilty no matter what answer he comes up with. He always outfoxes them.
Well, they're always out to trick him and trap him, and it's like everything's a trap, and he sees that, and it's those interactions are very powerful, where you see why is it that just the regular people and broken and, you know, the outcasts, why were they so drawn to this man? What was it? And yet, why were the religious elite so fearful of him? And even like you say, the shepherds and the kings at the beginning, the first people that see that baby Jesus are the outliers, the outcasts, the shepherds, the people who kept outside the city limits because they're dirty and smelly. And it's like, I like that. And all through his life, it seemed to be like this. And I don't know, super cool.
Super cool. I love the fact he's super cool. And I didn't realise that he was whipped and the flesh was falling off his bones, and this was all beforehand. He might have died anyway.
Well, they say he was unrecognisable when, I mean, Pontius Pilate at the end thinks,
by the way,
goes, "There's nothing."
Pilate comes across as half decent.
I kind of get it, you know, and you're trying to keep peace, you're an outlying Roman province, you're doing your best with a difficult sort of volatile time of year, and you know, but eventually he goes, "There's nothing wrong with this man." And
This guy's done nothing wrong in my eyes.
He's done nothing wrong. And it's like, and he's got this note from his wife that's passed to him saying, "Be careful, don't condemn this man to death." And he goes, "You know what? I'm going to give him that Roman punishment of the flogging and flaying that is like brutal. It killed many people." But apparently after that, and he thought that would satisfy, and he sends Jesus, Yeshua, off to be whipped. And apparently when they brought him back, his body was unrecognizable because there's no skin left. It's just a blooded carcass being dragged out, wrapped in this purple cloak they put on him. And he goes, "Are you satisfied now?" But it wasn't enough. And the courage bit, is like we forget just how brave this guy must be. He knew exactly. He told repeatedly to his band of like warrior, those beside. He said, "This is how it will end. I will be crucified. I'll be flogged, and then I'll be crucified."
Yeah, and you will deny all knowledge of knowing me 3 times before dawn, and all.
Yeah, and all of that. And that's a beautiful moment, isn't it? The end of Peter's restoration when. He sees Jesus for the first time after he's risen again, and he's ashamed because he denied it.
And Judas, the reluctant baddie. Nobody really wants to be the baddie.
You can understand that in a way.
Oh, gosh. And
so it's all in here.
It's all in there. And I knew the ingredients of my NutriBullet cocktail of the New Testament, but now I have a chronology because you told the story. Because we never hear the whole story when we're younger. We think we do, and then we go to Harvest Festival and we hear a bit more of it, and somehow we convince ourselves that we've now put that together in the right order, but we haven't. And that's what this story does. I love the epilogue, which is about the disciples, and basically they were all murdered or killed. None of them died of natural causes, as far as we know.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because that's the first time I call them by their modern names of Matthew, Mark, but they were all, they were either stabbed,
no matter
speared,
where they went,
stoned, skinned alive. Matthew, they think,
gosh.
But it's like that's a powerful testament to like their conviction that what they saw was real, And I like there's a nice quote on the back that's from Billy Graham that just says, "There is more evidence that this story is true than that Julius Caesar ever even lived." It's kind of cool.
Have you read that book from the trial lawyer in America, where he's analysed the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as if they were witness evidence, and he's put them through a trial system, and he said these all sort of concur to the extent beyond any reasonable doubt, or at least would, in my opinion. I've never read it, but I've heard about it.
It's so powerful. It's one of the most successful defence attorneys in history. Sort of won 148 cases consecutively. Who was an atheist, who was challenged by his best friend to take the case of the resurrection of Christ as a case study. And he said, "For sure, this is be interesting." And he came out. He goes, "There's no court and law in the world that would not conclude that this man who was who he says he was."
So cool.
My favourite bit of that is like the person that Jesus chose to reveal his identity to for the first time.
Yeah.
So after these 30 years, when he says it's time, like I'm going to start telling I am the Son of God.
Yeah.
And it's like the worst person in the world to reveal it to if you wanted credibility. And I kind of like that. He picks a Samaritan woman at the well who's like a total outcast.
Yeah.
And she's had 5 husbands, and
she draws water at the wrong time of the day.
All of this, exactly. Yeah. And I like that because it's like if you're trying to con the world, all of these things are the wrong way of doing it.
Yeah.
The only sort of reason of that is if you have truth on your side, and that's kind of I don't know. I love all these little pointers.
And then she sets you free.
Sets us free. It does, and that's like how I finish the book. I finish it with a simple prayer. Said, "My hope is that millions and millions and millions of people around the world find the light that sets us free, because life is hard, life is full of challenges, and we all need, an armor around us to help us walk strong, to be a good mother, father, husband, wife, to try and do life the best we can, and a spiritual element is surely part of our armory of how to be strong in life. And it's helped me in many a jungle, many a mountain, and day by day still a real kind of backbone to me, and it starts with this.
Mate, we could talk about other things, but I don't want to. Can we just leave it there?
I love it.
Is that cool? The greatest story ever told, an eyewitness account, Bear Grylls. It's not out this week, it's out next week, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I wish it was out now. So you got to buy it. You got to get this book. You got to get this book into your life. I will ask you this one more question. Is there anything else going to happen with the book?
We're doing it as we're doing the audio book of it, and we've already had amazing offers from the back of this, but there's no rush. I just kind of feel the
it's
right
not
time.
about that.
The right time, just like trust the universe with that one.
Right.
Trust the Lord.
So has it been out in America?
Comes out a month afterwards, so next week here,
We
and
get
a month
first
later
drafts,
in
do
the
we?
US. Yeah, these are first edition now. It's kind of, here we go.
All right, mate. Bear Grylls, let's hear for Bear Grylls, and literally the greatest story ever told. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book.